I am unashamed. What about you?
Welcome back to Unashamed. Jase, we have our favorite two guests on the Unashamed podcast.
He better say that.
I mean, this is a no-doubter, no-brainer.
And to make that even more spectacular, we dropped off a hitchhiker to pick up these two guests. So no Zach, add Lisa and Missy.
I feel like this is a bit of a trend because the last 3 times I've been here, Zach has conveniently not been here.
Yeah.
So
Well,
is
here's-
it something personal?
No, I'm going to tell
Missy,
you.
he doesn't like you. We've been meaning to tell you this for a long time.
No.
He's like, I cannot deal with Missy. Y'all are going to have to do that podcast.
I'm going to give you the truth.
I'm kidding.
No, I'm giving you the truth for,
Okay,
for the
Jason.
listeners.
This is the first time Unashamed.
I'm going to give you the truth
The unadulterated truth.
about our relationship with Zach, and it's nothing profound, but just every once in a while we need a break.
Maybe that's what he's thinking.
It's like maybe he
Yeah.
does too.
Well, look, here's the problem. I've offered to take many breaks.
Yeah, me
You
too.
can't
I don't
take
get
one,
a break.
babe.
I
No.
get no break.
Here's what I think. I think whenever the girls are on here, Zach doesn't want to be on here because if we're not on here, then he's the pretty part of the podcast.
Yeah.
Well, he
In
thinks
his mind.
so.
Yeah.
In his mind.
Yeah. And
Phil used to say
yeah,
that
so-
about everyone. Remember, he's even said that about us.
Yeah.
It's like if you think if he feels like you are getting a little bit too high on your horse, he would say, "You're a legend in your own mind." He would kind of pause. He'd say, "You're
Yeah.
a legend in your own mind."
Yeah.
Mhm.
So on the last podcast, we prayed for Jill because he literally dropped out 10 minutes in because he was worried. And she was texting me about appendicitis. Turns out it was kidney stones for our audience to know,
Yeah.
which is very
goodness.
painful and difficult, but she's doing okay. She's through the process of,
Me and him had the funniest exchange because I was checking on her
me too.
like every hour.
yeah.
And he was acting surprised every time,
Yeah.
which was very annoying to me. I'm like, you rushed her to the hospital. Me and Al literally made up that podcast off the top of
We
our
did.
head
Out of Romans 8.
out of Romans 8 because Al had a prayer, and I don't know, the Spirit moved, and we
Yeah.
talked
We wound
about
up having
prayer.
a great discussion about
Yeah, we
Romans
had
8.
a discussion, and we were a man down, which was, you don't appreciate that,
Yeah.
but you realize then we're missing a guy, which means we have to talk more,
Right.
and it's difficult. And he finally
Not for you, Jase.
I was going to say, are you really trying to
You're gonna
convince
sell
the
that to
audience
these
that talking more is difficult for you?
No.
Hey, deep down, I am a shy.
Oh,
young,
oh, boy.
scary
Oh,
We've
boy.
heard that
Maybe
for
when
years.
you were 10.
Oh, boy.
Not now.
Yeah, I have. This. I only
Jason's
do
being
this
vulnerable.
because the Lord put His hand on me and said, "Speak if you believe. Speak."
And you
There's
never
your-
looked back. Never looked
Nope,
back.
This is not easy for me, babe. So look, he then says, "Good news, she has kidney stones," and I'm like, "How can that be?"
Don't show that to her.
So look,
Yeah,
then-
right.
look, this is serious. We then get into a debate over what good news means. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that you need to go reread your Bible. Good news is good
Yes.
in Jesus. I was like, kidney stones, not good news, but you should have phrased the question.
Not as bad as it
It's not as bad as
Well,
it could
you're
have been.
realizing he's in the middle of trauma with his wife, and you're distracting him, trying to get him to explain the
Babe.
definition of good versus
Welcome to the
better,
Unashamed podcast.
or like all to make you understand more. His wife is in utter pain.
I did think about that. I wasn't oblivious to that, babe, but in the moment I was like, of all things, you can't use good news this way.
Oh,
This
goodness
is the
gracious.
theme of the Bible.
Babe.
I come to bring you good news. I'm like, you can't make that illustration here. And look, Zach likes to argue, and we had a little argument on it.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, here's another little argument not argument, but different perspective. When you came to tell me something last night after your middle son, Cole, called
This
you,
is a doozy here.
after he called you and you walked in and you said, well, I have some news. That's all you said. And I thought, is it good or bad? And then I still think we had different perspective on it, but I think it's fantastic news. So you want to share that?
Well, my son called me, and this kind of the theme of this podcast will be love is in the air
Yeah.
because we have some
We have
guests.
some amazing guests
Yes,
coming.
we do.
We do, and it kind of has a marriage theme. And even if you're not married, at some point we hope you get married to Jesus,
Or you
And,
know some married people. So.
yeah, you know some married people, so all apply.
But we talk about love of Jesus too. And
We do.
if you're listening to the podcast, we're hoping that you love Jesus.
That's right.
We're all made by God and a part of His family. And I've mentioned on several podcasts, the Bible's about God getting His family back now, so it applies. But anyway, I told her, I was like, got some news because my son called me and he was like, Dad. So I knew just by that, Dad, I thought, whatever, the tone was different.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, please be good, but I was willing to deal with whatever it is, the fact he's calling me. And he said, I want to ask you something. And I was like, fire away. And so I could tell he was nervous. So it was making me nervous. And he said, me and my girlfriend are going to get married. Well, obviously I know that. And I was like, yeah. And he said, we've decided that we would like for you to do the ceremony.
I kind of thought that's where it might
So
be.
my heart kind of sank because in my default mode.
That's terrible. I hope Cole doesn't listen to this.
Let me finish the sentence. My heart felt
I'm sorry,
because the shy self kid thought, oh no, don't
another
screw
wedding.
this up. No, I thought it. Now I have a responsibility that is an honor.
Yeah.
And I love these two people. In fact, what I said was in the moment, I said, I really believe that you and her belong together and God will build something.
Wow.
And I used a profound phrase.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. I used a profound phrase saying, God's going to build this and I want to be a part of it, because I was thinking this kind of makes you in from the start, because, we're going to have to sit down and discuss this, which I did say, because in a weird comment, my response was, oh, is she there with you? And he was like, no. And I said, don't take this the wrong way, but I'm going to need to hear that from her. And
This is her wedding.
yeah, because he was kind of quizzing me like, well, why? And I was like, well, because if this goes bad, I want her to sanction it verbally in front of me, because I'm going to say you could do better in having somebody do your wedding.
I think it's a huge honor because we don't know her and her family as much as, say, we did Brighton, because Brighton grew up with Reed. So this has already been feeling a little bit different, So for Emmeline and Cole to make this decision together to include our family in her wedding in such a profound way, I think is a huge honor.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited about it. I was thinking we would just be a guest and come in spiffily dressed, and now we have a
She says that
responsibility.
she pats him on the knee.
Yeah.
I'm just glad that he didn't tell Cole what he told Lily and Austin when they asked him, have you talked to Al? That was his first reaction to them.
Well, I
it's good-
said you could do better.
No, and I disagree with that. You'll do great. And I guess you're right, Jase. That is the theme for today. We're talking about marriage. I'm so glad you told that story, because we have a great love story coming up, which is also a theme of you being on the podcast, Missy. We've had some guests every time you're on.
Yeah.
Well, she brought friends.
She brought friends. We're going to take a break. When we come back on the other side, we'll introduce our guest. So I'm super excited about one of our new partners because this is a very special group to me. It's One Kingdom, which is the global gospel ministry of our church, the Whites Ferry Road Church. I serve on their board, just to let you know. But we have been doing mission work and disaster relief for many, many years. It's a little bit unique and different in that we always try to work through a local church. No one knows a country better than the people that live there and want to share the gospel with people. And also, when relief is done, we want people to not just, have physical relief, but we want them to have an avenue to the gospel, because that's what saves you forever. So we're super excited to have these guys along with us. I know all of us have been affected. Zach, when you guys had the big disaster, One Kingdom Relief was one of the first groups that helped you guys.
Not just one of the first group, they're still here. So I think they've put in about $400,000 into one of the neighborhoods here that got destroyed.
And Jase, you and Missy, got the blessing. I know Karina, the reason you guys found her was a connection through One Kingdom as well.
It was. We've done various projects through the years. So I'm really thankful for the involvement and what they do to make the world shine like Jesus.
And that's what One Kingdom is all about. Share Jesus, speak Jesus, show Jesus. And they've always wanted to be able to speak gospel to every man and woman in every nation and every language. We're talking about YouTube, podcast, social media. Even what we're doing on the Unashamed podcast has an impact. We gathered around a table. We fed people fish down on the river. For you, this may be an opportunity for you to reach people around the world. You can go to onekingdom.org to donate today. 100% of the donations go to actual work and not overhead, which to me is our greatest claim. That's onekingdom.org, onekingdom.org.
Welcome to the blunt talk of it's
Unashamed.
I figured since you did the podcast before, you might have warned your husband.
I said to Cubbie this morning, this is fun. You are going to love this.
It's going to be fun.
So,
well, it was so good because I completely related to Rebecca being the oldest and trying to handle.
Wrangle
yeah, exactly.
children.
So, well, welcome to the Unashamed podcast. I see we're rolling. We are super excited to have Rebecca St. James, Cubbie Fink. Welcome to Unashamed.
Thank you.
Yeah,
We're
thanks for
delighted.
having us.
Yeah.
And you are married, even though the names are weird.
Good
I just
point.
want to say that.
Yes.
The names don't line up, but yes, we are married.
Legally married.
And my license does say Rebecca Fink. That was a thing for me. It does not
Okay.
say St. James.
Yes.
Never
Yes.
has.
It never has.
So,
That's true.
So, Rebecca, you've been on the podcast before. Last time with
Yep.
your brothers,
Loved
and
it. It was so fun.
Yeah,
It was my
we
favorite.
had done a screening, I think, of the movie
Unsung
Yeah.
hero.
Unsung Hero, which was so amazing. We haven't had a chance to talk to you since it came out, and I'm so glad
That's
it
right.
did well. And I knew it would. It's just as we talked about when you were on the podcast last time, Rebecca. I think it resonated so strongly with us because we also had the biopic about our family that was unafraid to talk about difficulty, and so I just think we had a bond.
Oh, there's no doubt. We became friends over that whole
We sure
encounter.
did. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like
Absolutely.
we're
Missy
have
and
this.
I hung out in
Yeah.
town. Like, we get
Yes,
together.
we've shared
The
our
real thing.
souls together.
We have. We have bonded. We've gone to the deep places.
Well, I
yeah.
want to say something weird for Al. Says something profound.
Bring the weird.
That's called the Unashamed way. What you just
I feel like I
Do
need
it.
to say this at some point in our relationship. I want to borrow that hat because
Okay.
it just it looks like the ultimate. I see myself sitting on a creek bank catching crappie
Barefoot.
in that hat.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I love it.
Yes.
Okay, we can do that. I think
Okay.
we're friends enough that we can do that.
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds good.
What'd you call it,
Good
Missy?
plan.
A female Indiana Jones.
Yeah,
For
that's
those of you
my
watching, you'll be
favorite.
able to see it.
Yeah.
So we brought in Missy and Lisa because we wanted to gussy up the place for y'all as well. Normally,
We
this
feel
is like a
so
ratty
blessed.
room where men hang out, but
Testosterone reigns.
exactly. Today,
Uh-huh.
we brought Missy and Lisa in as well because we wanted you to have a good experience. And
Thank you.
you're here, of course, to talk a little bit about your book called Lasting Ever. And just right off the bat, Jase and I both read it this weekend, and it is so good.
Thank
I mean,
you.
I could not wait. I was telling Lisa this morning because I read a lot of books for the podcast.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But one thing you guys did so well with the book was that I found myself taking copious notes from the last third of the book because you built so well into sort of the tension of everything in your lives and how you did it. But it's just very, very well done. So job well done. I
Praise
can't
the
wait to
Lord.
talk about it today,
to
as
hear
well
you
as
so
whatever
much.
else you
Encouraging.
guys have going on because I know there's a lot. Cubbie, I feel like, so you're a California guy, and
I am.
yet now you're in Tennessee. And
Yep.
so reading the book, I watched that transition as well. And you talk
Yep.
about it a little bit in the book. So I'd love to hear that more from you. Just being a California kid, riding surf or surf. I don't even know how to say it.
Riding surfboard.
Surfing through life.
Waves.
I'm so with water with us, we only take things out of it. We never get it on top of it.
Well, that's what I look. Al, what he's trying to say is because I thought, okay, we got a guy from California. He's living in Nashville. He married a woman from Australia. I said, I'm pretty sure that this book on marriage is going to be about having a communication problem.
And we've worked through some stuff in communication. We work
yeah.
on that, as in every marriage, I feel like.
So do you feel like, Cubbie, that you're a Southerner now, that you've been there a bit, or how does that work?
I mean, maybe a lovingly adopted Southerner. I think there's some redneck under this long hair.
There we go.
There definitely has always been kind of the fantasies of the South for me. Growing up on the West Coast, I mean, the huckleberry fin, chasing fireflies in the tall grass and the creeks and the rope swings and things like that. There was always kind of a fantastic element about the South in my mind, and even growing up going to Disneyland, my favorite place in the park was always Tom Sawyer's Island. So it was just a lot about the South that really resonated with something in my DNA. And I was born in Colorado, so experienced the outdoors from an early age, and all my uncles and cousins hunt, and I hunt now too. But growing up on the West Coast, I was always horrified by the thought of being landlocked and that far away from the ocean. But since transitioning here, I've absolutely fallen in love with it. I mean, it's been... And I think there's, because of the sense of calling, because of the Lord's leading, bringing us here pretty miraculously, that kind of transcends any desire to be near the beach. Just sensing a rooted sense of calling in the place that we're at right now.
Well, probably more familiar to you is you are accompanied by a lot more Californians around you in Nashville.
100%.
There's so many moving into that area. So it's not truly 100% Southern anymore. But you talking about that Tom Sawyer Island, I saw your backyard. You're doing a pretty good job making one of those.
We're trying.
It's pretty amazing. Yeah.
We have a little pond back there, and thankfully the people that built this house had 3 kids, and they wanted to make a backyard paradise. So there's a little bitty island on this pond, and we're just water people. I mean, me growing up near the beach in Australia, and then Cubbie growing up near the beach in California, something calls to us about water. So the first time I brought him back to Tennessee, actually, when we were dating, we did the rope swing thing. We swung on a rope swing into a river, and I think he was just captivated. I mean, and you saw fireflies that trip too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's kind of magical. It is. I think we take it for granted living in the South, but it is really special if you haven't,
Well, when you're a true Southerner, you have to build large glass windows so you can enjoy all of that from inside.
Yes.
Yeah.
To keep yourself safe and cool.
Well, to that point, I would like to point out the elephant in the room for anyone watching. I'm absolutely dripping sweat. I have not adjusted to the humidity. I went for a run this morning, and I finished probably an hour ago, and I'm still just sweating profusely.
That's
so.
Okay. They probably can't even see it from there. But.
Well, and we say here in Louisiana, when you're outside, everything outside wants to hurt you. And so you just have to figure out a way to wall off the bugs and the things.
Well,
and still enjoy it.
And still enjoy it.
Yeah. I'm glad you're saying that. It's making me feel better about Missy choosing to marry me, because she wanted the adventure, but without the bugs. And I'm like, hey, this is part of it.
Not for me. It's not.
That's right.
It's called adventure.
Nope.
But that's why
she's like, windows.
That's right.
Just see it
Windows
out
and
there.
screens. That's right.
I don't mind bugs, and I don't mind varmints. I just trapped 3 raccoons last week at our house in Gulf Shores.
Wow.
And she did it on her own. Like I did not help.
Yeah.
She was like, I'm going to do this. She got the trap. She set it every night, and she trapped 3 different raccoons.
because they were coming in the doggy door.
Yeah, they were coming
in the cat door.
cat
Yeah.
door, and
Yeah.
they were
In
eating
our
all the
cat
cat
door.
food.
Do you call it a
gosh.
catty door?
Yeah, cat door.
Well,
No,
what
I went
comes in.
catty,
Catty.
as in
oh,
doggy.
only if you're being catty do you call it a
Oh,
catty.
you're being catty.
Catty
Okay,
door.
I want to ask a question that I feel like is totally probably fine to ask here. But what do you do with those raccoons? I mean,
That's
on the
very
show,
interesting. That's a
great
question,
You
Rebecca.
ate some pretty crazy stuff. I don't think you ate.
She's
raccoons.
fixing to give you the most yuppie answer ever.
So
But go ahead.
Which y'all
We
will
weren't-
appreciate, probably.
We weren't in Louisiana and we weren't in the country. We're actually in Gulf Shores,
Alabama.
Alabama, and we are in the city limits.
Okay.
So
So options are
you have
limited.
to take those down to about 6 miles down the road. There's a preserve, and you release them into the
no.
preserve. And you hope they do not find their way back that 6
To
miles
you.
to your house.
Oh,
So
man.
she
Yeah,
left
Bobby,
out
they
the
got-
part where people line the streets and they clap and they shed a tear.
I think we would be investing in a silencer.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I have to say, it went against my roots and my upbringing, but it was great because we hear now they've started a business down the preserve because they had just turned into takers, not givers, and we wanted those raccoons back doing what God made them to do,
Yeah.
which is
Hunt.
eating, hunting
what?
on their own.
Yeah.
They were just eating our
Hunting on
cat
their
food.
own. There you
Exactly.
Well, to get back to the book, I thought.
Nice segue.
No, this is relatable to what we're talking about because I was like, I think we met once, Cubbie, but it was like in passing at something. And
Was it at
so-
the premiere? Maybe I think it was.
I
at the
think
premiere,
so.
wasn't
I think it was.
for
Yep.
Unsung Hero.
Yeah.
But we got to know Rebecca really well when they came.
Right.
We hung out and we just kind of bonded. And I bonded with your brothers, and
Yes,
we
you did.
have the most weird texts that go back and forth that I think are really fun and funny. So I'm really glad we're
believe
friends. Oh, it makes me laugh every time. But when I read the part, I was like, "This guy's from California." But then you were nicknamed Cubbie but based on your hair. I believe it was your dad said you look
It
like
was.
a bear cub. And I thought, when I read that in the book, I thought, me and this guy are going to get along, right? They literally thought he was a bear cub.
Well, did
based
you
on
not
the
think
hair.
what I thought? Because Cubbie's dad nicknames everybody, and our dad does the same thing.
Oh.
Like there are
Oh,
people that have
wow.
lifelong nicknames,
Oh, totally.
just like you,
Yes.
from
Yep.
his nicknaming
They're
ability.
usually not
that's amazing.
flattering, but
Well, I was
we'll
fixing to say that. One caveat.
Ours are more kind of a negative
I mean, some of the nicknames that he called
body
me,
style.
it's basically body type. He's like, oh, one eye there. He's
It's like,
the guy's got a patch on his eye, and he's like, start calling
your
him one eye.
worst physical attribute will
That's
be
not
your new
always
nickname.
a positive.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
remember when he came up with thick legs, which probably wouldn't be a problem, but it was a
it was
woman.
a girl. Yeah.
And I was like, Phil, you can't
And
do
that one
that.
actually stuck.
Well,
Did it
for
actually
him.
stuck?
Only inside.
For him.
Only
Maybe
inside.
behind
Only
the
with
scenes.
him, it bothered everyone but him because my dad feels like, well, what are you getting your feelings hurt? You have thick legs.
So summertime is here, and for Lisa and I down here at the Southern Lair, that means the grandkids are coming. We're always looking for activities and things we can do with them. One of the things we love to do is read books. My grandkids love books, and they specifically love Brave books. They help parents raise strong families by teaching biblical values through powerful, faith-filled stories. Each month, Brave sends out a new book that teaches lessons like courage, forgiveness, or standing firm in your faith. And Jase, you know very well one of the famous Brave authors.
I do, my lovely wife. And I have something better than a Brave book. I have a complete set in my hands.
Ooh.
10 books in my hands. You can buy a set. I mean, we're talking Mouse of the Sea, Ice Heist, Deep Within Doom's Dome, Dear Valor, Al, also my
Jeff
brother.
and Jessica,
That's
yeah,
right.
our brother and sister-in-law also have one on adoption. When you subscribe, you not only get a new book each month, you'll also get access to Brave Plus, which is their new streaming platform, is packed with safe, uplifting shows like Strawberry Shortcake, Bob the Builder, and Iggy and Mr. Kirk with Kirk Cameron. So while the world is trying to confuse you and distract you, Brave helps families stay grounded and stay together. Head to bravebooks.com/unashamed. Use the code unashamed to get Missy's book, Because You're My Family, and Jeff and Jessica's book, Dear Valor, for free. That's bravebooks.com/unashamed. Raise them with truth, raise them brave.
And in his defense, he doesn't care what you call him either. So it's just like, hey, we're all being honest here.
But it's
There
been
you
an
go.
awkward. It's been an awkward thing.
I
But-
really think I'm the only one that I don't have a nickname.
You were just
Phil has-
Al's woman.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
just Al's
Sure,
woman.
we're all the
That is the
women.
nickname,
that
and it
is
is
true.
derogatory. Look, Missy actually teared up because his life has gotten difficult for them. For some reason, he just became so enamored with Missy, and she became his favorite there for a while. And
Aw.
she's like, you tell that you do it
What?
better
I
than
don't know
me.
what you're talking
No,
about.
when you said he
boy,
used to
here we
call
go.
me Jase's woman. You had a little stair step of years of how it escalated to him finally calling you Missy.
Oh,
And-
well, I think I was surprised when he actually said my name out loud because I'm not sure he's ever called me anything before, or anything complimentary before, either Jase's woman or, oh yeah, your woman who doesn't cook or whatever. But now it's like, he only
Well,
said
babe,
it once. I
Tell
think
the
he only said it.
syrupy part when he
don't
said
know
it.
it.
I
I
remember.
remember.
Oh, I can't believe this. You came home and you got all teary eyed, and I thought, okay,
remember
I need to
this.
pay careful attention to whatever she's fixed to say because I could
She's
tell
teary.
she was getting
Listen,
teary eyed.
Yeah.
Listen,
And she's
yeah,
like, your dad said my name and followed it with "I love you."
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah,
So-
he only did that. He did that once. Yeah.
So there was the two things that had
Wow.
never happened. He called me by name, which you see the spiritual application
Yeah,
here.
that's true.
He called me by name, and he told
Well,
me. I
I've been telling him I love him because we've never had that kind of relationship before, but because he's just been, it's a different feel right
Yeah.
now and
It's a
has been the last
softening.
few weeks. Yes. And he's very patient and kind and appreciative. And so when he sees me, he's just, he comes towards me because he knows I probably bringing him some food.
Yeah, I think that was
That's the main
started
thing.
off
He
the
likes
draw.
the food, the
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
food. But I've just been telling him getting past that awkwardness because I want him to know I love him. And so
It's
I've been
beautiful.
telling him that. And one time he looked up, he said, Missy, and I turned around, he said, I love you too.
Wow.
I was like, okay, see you later.
That's incredible.
That's
Yeah,
special.
yeah.
I love that.
So the
Mm-hmm.
roughest of humans, chiseled by the grace of God, one day may say,
You never know.
It was a
Amen.
beautiful story, which is what made me, want to relate that to your book. I thought you did the book cleverly, but unusual because it's like a love story, y'all's love story, and you were very vulnerable and shared all your high points, low points along the way. And it's not like most people that have a marriage book, it's like do these 10 things and this.
Right.
It's not like that. It's just real and raw, and all relationships are different. But you see that kind of God story within
Yeah.
our story.
Well, somewhere within the book, you guys quoted, one of you quoted Revelation 12:11 with that idea of the overcoming of evil.
Yes.
By
Yes.
the word of our testimony, which is God's story. And I
Yes.
love it, Cubbie. I think it was you that said this is not our story, it's God's story
Totally.
lived out through us. And
Absolutely.
I want to get into that because I feel like it's a ministry book that's going to help a lot of people. And it's really interesting because you're both very obvious, were called and anointed by God early, fairly early in your lives. But then there was such a journey before you found each other. And that's what I found fascinating, that journey to get there. And then now you guys in this season are getting to work together and even doing this book. So just tell us a little bit just on the arch of that. I mean, what it's been like to have individual careers and the struggles you both talk about in those careers, but then now being at a place where God's using you to do some things together, including this book, which is part of that process. What's that been like?
Yeah.
It's been really, really sweet. And I think we were very intentional about wanting it to be just our story. Yeah, I love that scripture in Revelation. We overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And we need each other's stories, and we need to be encouraged by each other's stories. And I think the more authentic we can be, the more people relate to it and go, oh, that's me too. I've been through that. And, we talk about miscarriage in the book. We talk about waiting seasons. We talk about job loss, for me, secondary infertility and just burnout and just so many different things that we've been through. And just trying to hear the voice of God in seasons where you just feel confused. Just there's so much I think that we had journeyed through separately. And then I was in my early 30s. He was in his late 20s when we met in LA. And then to meet each other and feel like, oh, wow, you are this other soul that feels like the other part or the match of my soul. We're so different in personality. I'm much more extroverted. He's much more introverted. He's calmer. I'm excitable, just all of that. But, and I'm very verbal. I like to verbally process. A dream, time in the car is just kind of quietly being together. And I just want to be chatting the whole time. So we're real different, but the same heart, the same values, the same commitment to God, the same picture of what family life, what we want that to look like, the same priorities. And it was just amazing to have journeyed through so much and then meet this person, for me on the other side of the world from where I was born, and then the other side of the country from where I'd lived, and to meet this person that matches in heart. Like I sit in this time in my life and just feel so thankful. I see God's grace. I see the gift that our relationship, that our family is. And I'm just kind of amazed. So we hope that our story just feels hopeful to people in a time where I think people are discouraged, either spiritually or relationally or in marriage or in family life. And we hope it's kind of wind in people's sails, really. I think that was a part of our intent. What would you think?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that it is the pain of life that is the unifying factor. It's the thing that we all experience. It's the thing that we're promised. We're not promised perfect lives. Even as Christians, we're not promised happiness. What we are promised is that we're going to walk through pain. But the beautiful thing is that in that pain, we get a unique perspective and understanding of the love of the Father. Because it's in those moments of desperation and calling out, and the way he meets us so intimately is really beautiful, and the way he shapes us and molds us through our pain. And so even, looking at the stories of our lives and trying to figure out which of those stories we're going to include in this book, it was very important for us to share, a lot of the highs and a lot of the good stuff, but really dive in on the hard stuff. And I think that's the stuff that people are going to be able to identify with and realize, we're people too, walking through pain just like everybody else. And we chose to stick to God in the midst of that pain. And we've seen the beauty of growth and healing on the other side of that pain, and wanted to share about that. And just kind of based on the uniqueness of our careers, there was a lot of beautiful preparation that we saw in the process of reflection, just unique points of connection along our journeys that we never really saw before, in different ways that God was preparing us for each other without us being aware of, one another. And so it was fun to kind of discover those little Easter eggs along the way as we dove into our stories. And even based, when we met, she was sort of phasing out of her career, desperately just wanted to be a wife and mom, which it was the dream of her life for so long. And, we meet, and it's very clear early on that this is probably going somewhere special. And that was kind of right at the beginning of my career with music, and just looking at the potential trajectory of that, it was a little bit nerve-wracking for me. It's like, you're trying to get off the road and I'm about to get on the road. But even in that, I shared my concerns about that. And she said, no, I'm excited. I'm excited to be with you and support you. And even the way that she had an understanding of the road, she had an understanding of living on the bus and living out of a suitcase for years on end. And so it's not like she had to learn that. She already knew it, but she was able to enter that world in a supportive role, as opposed to a role that was carrying all the weight. So just the way that worked just very seamlessly and beautifully was pretty remarkable.
And I wasn't wowed by the glam moments either, or like looking for that, or, there was just this sense of understanding of the highs and the lows of a profile life, like a life that to most of the world looks like you're living the dream. It's just amazing. It's what everybody wants. but yet there's challenges and loneliness to that I understood for him. And so we were able to even bond over that. Yes, it's amazing and it's a privilege and it's beautiful and such an adventure. But there's also challenges that I got for him. And so we were able to relate on that level. And again, just such a God thing that we could. Like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there was so much in y'all's book that was relatable just of our own marriage and experience. And that was one of them. I remember getting asked by somebody in the media, because I have a bad habit of saying whatever comes to mind. And
we love it. We love it.
they
It's
said,
so
how's
amazing.
it? The question was, how does it feel to be famous? You know, and what's it like? And I said, pretty lonely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it was just like, they were looking at me like I had just dropped a bull rattlesnake in the middle of the interview. But
Yeah.
because even though you may be in front of thousands of people, that little wall there, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
moving on to the next gig. It's not
Yes.
like I was with a few thousand people, but
Yes.
Right.
nothing really happened there. So that's why your
Totally.
core circle is really so valuable.
Yes.
Our first year of marriage was we had the burnout experience in the first year. And
Wow,
so it
you
was
guys.
so because I
But not
just,
because of fame, but for a different
Right.
reason.
for a
But-
different
Okay.
reason, and it
Okay.
was a godly reason, but still, it really meant a lot to me with that one line in there about we're going to do this together, because that's what at the end of our first year of marriage, we were basically. I started sharing Jesus with my friends. Well, they started coming to the Lord, and I was immature, so I thought, not only are we going to save them, I'm going to drag them if they don't, start going quickly
Right.
enough. And
Yeah.
so basically it just led to hundreds of people coming to the Lord, but I was never
Whoa.
there. And Missy was like, well, this is great, but
But not what I signed up for.
Yeah.
well,
In the
exactly.
relationship.
Do you know what one of my hobbies is?
What's that?
I try to race trees.
Do you want to see which one grows faster?
Well, the beard is a racing tree because on some trees, moss comes out onto the tree that looks exactly like my beard.
Well, there you go. Well, if you want a fast-growing tree, you can go to our friends at fastgrowingtrees.com. They are the biggest online nursery in the U.S. with thousands of different plants and over 2 million happy customers. Some of those customers are right here on this show. We bought everything from fruit trees to privacy trees. Al, did you do a palm tree as well, or a couple of palm trees?
I did, and it's never looked better down here at the Southern Lair.
So these guys have an easy online ordering process and quick delivery straight to your door. Plus, with their Alive and Thrive guarantee and expert support, your plants will arrive healthy and you'll receive guidance on choosing the right plants and learn how to properly care for them for your specific environment. You don't have to drive around to the nurseries and these big garden centers and choose from a limited assortment. And we've all brought plants home from the store just to see them die in a couple of days or a few weeks later. But every plant from fastgrowingtrees.com comes with instructions and tips on how to care for your new plants so that they can grow to their fullest potential. This spring, they had the biggest deals for your yard, up to half off on select plants and other deals. And then listeners to our show get 15% off their first purchase when using the code Unashamed at checkout. That's an additional 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code Unashamed at checkout. Fastgrowingtrees.com code Unashamed. Now's the perfect time to plant. Use Unashamed to save today. Offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply.
And I think that was the interesting thing about the book, Jason. Jason and Missy and Lisa and I have two completely different experiences in our marriages. And yet, I think we both related, I could say, Jason and I mentioned each other, to your book so well. And yet, we're so different, which is why I think the book is going to be so powerful as a ministry book. Because Lisa and I relate more to the difficulties you guys went through, because that's what happened to us. And then out of this amazing grace walk to come out. So when you guys talk in the book about you were on an Alaskan cruise, which we can relate to because we worked a couple of those ourselves, kind of like you guys did.
Nice.
And when you talk about both of you having a moment there, and I thought it was interesting, Cubbie, because you used the word running as a word from the Lord in that situation. And it seemed to apply to both of you because you both had realized something in that moment. And there's something, I want to read the quotes because they were so powerful in the book. One of them was from you, Rebecca. It said, we can't be fully loved without being fully known, which I thought was a really powerful point. Then you went into that. And then, Cubbie, you said this, which really struck a nerve with me. You were talking about making the move to Nashville, and you said, but that's where I really think faith lives, right there at the corner of risky and right. And then you talked about risky faith and what it means to take those moves. So just can you talk a little bit, is this right there at to me, it's the pinnacle point of the book where now it puts you where you are today in the new season you're in, what that was like to struggle to that point and then to realize something, but then to take risk to where you are today. What was that like to be able to do that?
Yeah, I mean, that moment on the cruise was a massive turning point in our lives, and we've just seen a beautiful trajectory since then. But preceding that was what we refer to in the book as our winter season. It was a 4 or 5 year period of a lot of hurt and pain and confusion. It was kind of kicked off by a pretty traumatic parting ways with the band that I was in, something that we didn't see coming, and kind of threw us into this tailspin. And we were simultaneously trying to get pregnant and walk through wasn't happening. Walked through a couple of miscarriages, which was painful. My mom was dying. There was just everywhere we looked, there was just pain and hurt and confusion. But probably the most painful factor of that season for me personally was the silence that I experienced from the Lord. It was unique to that season. Every other season of my life, God has been exponentially clear. I mean, as close to an audible voice of God that you can experience at these major turning points. And suddenly I was at the biggest turning point in my life and desperately crying out for direction and asking the Lord for just something to hang on to and where to even put the next foot. And as I'm taking steps, and I was just met with silence. And it was the moment where I really had to live by faith, probably for the first time in my faith journey. I mean, I had been a Christian. I mean, literally grew up in a Christian home, but serious about Jesus for probably 15 years at that point. But because of this very connected, relationship with the Holy Spirit and being able to hear his voice, it wasn't really living by faith. It was obedience. It was, following the calling and the push of the Lord. But it wasn't really faith. It was faith in the moment that there was silence, because then I had to say, okay, what do I really believe? Do I believe the years of what I thought I believed? Do I believe that the scripture is telling me the truth? Do I believe, X, Y, and Z as it relates to my faith? And ultimately made the decision not to deconstruct and throw out the baby with the bathwater because of this pain. It was a decision to continue to lean in, continue to trust that God is good despite the pain, and walk through, 4 or 5 years of silence, which was hard, but all I could do was live out what I knew to be true prior to the silence, continue to trust that God was good, and try to put one foot in front of the other, and explored a lot of different things, and didn't really know what I was going to do next. I just looked back to the things that resonated with my soul prior to this upheaval and in life circumstances, and started just gently kind of putting my hand to things and trying to figure out, okay, does this make sense? Does that make sense? And in that exploration process, it culminated in that moment on the cruise where I felt like God just said, "You're running." And ultimately, when I sat with it didn't make sense at first, but when I sat with that word and reflected on it, I realized, yeah, I'm running from the thing that God has created me to do. There was a big part of me in that winter season that just wanted something that made sense, something practical, something where A plus B equals C, but the creative world, A plus B never equals C. Mm-hmm. And I think there was, some hurt and pain associated with what I had walked through, that I just wanted something practical that made sense. But in that, pursuit of the practical, I was running from the creative path that he was calling me to, and realized that I needed to turn back to, the creative space and the film and the music and things like that. And as soon as I kind of let that guard down and realized, okay, Lord, I have been running, I want to turn back, it was just flooded with his voice again. I just felt him speaking. I felt the inspiration. I felt direction. And it was revolutionary. It was pretty remarkable. And little did I know, God was doing an incredible work in the heart of Rebecca over the course of the same week on the boat. And it wasn't until after getting off the boat and debriefing what had transpired over the previous 4 or 5 days that we realized, wow, God has been really moving the last few days. And I'll let her share her side of the story.
Yeah, I mean, I think what encourages me so much about that moment in time is how much God can do in such a short amount of time. I think most times in our lives, progress and healing and change, great change, takes time. It's just a process. It just takes longer than what we think. We've got to be patient in that. And there's times in our lives where he just changes us instantaneously, whether it's becoming a Christian or, for many people, leaving an addiction, and God delivers, But for us, that moment was so transformative, and probably the most transformative time I've ever experienced in my relationship with Jesus. And that's being a Christian for decades, But I'm on stage. I was singing on that cruise. The whole Small Bone Clan was there. We were in this season of infertility and pain and burnout and job loss, all the things. And I felt prompted by the Holy Spirit to just share that on stage in between worship songs and just say, this is where we're at right now. And we're just clinging to the goodness of God and what we know about him, even in this really hard, not wrapped up with a bow season. Like nothing was wrapped up. And I think generally I like to share those stories of victory, like God's done this, and this is the breakthrough, and this is how we're on the other side of it. And we were not on the other side of it, guys. Like we were in it. And I just felt him saying, hey, just trust me. I want you to just share from that place. And I did. I'm crying on stage. I almost never cry on stage. The audience was crying. It was a kind of not a dry eye in the room. Like the Holy Spirit was so profoundly moving. I just get goosebumps thinking about it now.
I would say you just gave me chills when you said, at the moment, I just shared everything to a bunch of strangers.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't been singing at that point. I was, retired and kind of burnt out and had vocal problems and all of it. So it was vulnerable for me to even sing, let alone be that vulnerable in between songs. But it was so transformative. It was like while I'm on stage, I'm feeling the winter fall away from me, like a spring begin, a sunrise. And I'm like dominoes. It's almost like, you just see your past differently. You see your future differently. It was almost like this domino effect that was happening in my heart while I'm on stage. And I walked off and I said to my brother who was backstage, I think God just moved me back into ministry. I think you just did this crazy change in my life. Like I was not looking for it. I had hung up that hat, talking about hats, that hat was done. Like for the rest of my life, I was done. And then he just, changed me. And so for both of us to be going through that separately and then talk about it later and go, what, you too? And we might be moving to Nashville and we weren't looking for any of it.
Yeah.
Like wild. So we just feel thankful.
I don't know if y'all thought about this, but when I was reading it, I thought, the last guy that was running from God on a boat wound up in the belly of a fish for 3 days. So it could have turned out worse for you guys. At least you just came to your moment without having to go through a whale's battle track.
That extreme. Thankful for that.
I'm so glad y'all shared that because one of the worst experiences of my life was the one time I agreed to go on a cruise.
It was not
It
fun.
was the bottom of the barrel of life. No. And I said, Lord, if you will get
he had
me
more of a Jonah experience
off this boat. It's just so crazy. If you want to hit rock bottom, go on a cruise. And I don't mind saying that. Our situation.
It was just throwing up. Were you just living in the toilet?
No, he was sick. You did have inner ear
I did get
problem.
sick, and but the problem was somebody had the idea that there was the height of Duck Dynasty. It was like the first season.
Oh yes,
and they said, let's do this. Let's have a cruise with the Duck Dynasty people.
Oh, wow.
That somebody was me. So I'm the one who talked. I was contacted
we just said
by
the quiet
cruise.
part out loud.
So here's all you need to know
fault.
about that. I know we can laugh.
We were paid
now.
very well.
We can laugh about it now.
We were. And look, I'll go on record saying this. When they said, let's do this again, and they offered
That's
me
when we all said no.
an obscene amount of money. And I was like, this is not a negotiation tactic.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's 7 figures. I ain't getting on another boat. But I'll say what happened was people were excited. The show had come out. Well, the thing sold out in 4 or 5 minutes. But just think about this.
No way.
What kind of person would buy a ticket to that in 4 or 5 minutes? The crazy fans. So we're now on a ship How many people were there?
3,000.
3,000 people,
Oh my
and we can't
goodness,
get
you
off.
guys.
And these
you
people
can't go anywhere.
are
You can't
crazy.
go anywhere.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
there's nowhere you
They
can go.
crazy loved the show. They look,
Yes,
and
100%. They were probably the sweetest people.
they
were.
were
Just a
really
little
awesome.
Duck
It was
Dynasty
just,
crazy.
you know, Duck Dynasty was insane
thing.
during
Yeah.
that time.
And look, you'll
But
love this.
We
We
were.
wound up baptizing
That's- yeah.
300 people on the ship.
Wow.
Yes.
It's the first time there's been intentional
Yes.
baptism on a Carnival
Well, that-
cruise.
In the pool.
Because
You know
usually
why?
they just fall in drunk.
No.
But yeah, we were actually baptizing them on purpose.
No, well, I think I told my dad. I said, I think this is the first time we actually baptized a drunk person.
Yeah, exactly.
But I couldn't talk him out of it. But what I was going to say, is, I felt.
You guys, you're amazing.
So one of the things that Jill and I have done over the years is we have bought and sold quite a few houses. Al, do you remember how many houses we lived in just in the town that you live in now?
You know, Zach, I would have to have one of those Chinese things with all the beads on it to keep up with how many houses that you have bought, renovated, sold, and moved into.
I'm telling you, I'm an expert in buying houses, and it matters the mortgage company that you go with, the lender that you go with. Okay, that matters. So when it comes to big money decisions, you got to start with the right information and the right guidance, and you got to go with somebody that you trust. If it's time to get your financial house in order or make a big real estate decision or maybe pay off those high interest credit card bills or lower your monthly mortgage payments, here's what you need to do. You need to call Andrew Del Rey and Todd Avakian at Sierra Pacific Mortgage. Now, look, I met these guys at a worship event at the Hub in West Monroe, and I love these guys. They're the real deal. With Andrew and Todd, it's not just about the transaction. I spent a lot of time with these guys and really vetted them. They do actually care. And I believe that they do bring honesty and knowledge and over 40 years of experience to the table to find the right solutions for you and your family. So for those big money decisions, Andrew and Todd have the answers that you need for clarity, financial peace of mind. Plus, you're going to really love working with these guys and their team. So here's what you need to do. Call Andrew Del Rey and Todd Avakian, the guys I trust, and they can help you too. Call 888-888-1172. That's 888-888-1172, or visit andrewandtodd.com. That's andrewandtodd.com.
It felt so combative. I felt like it was spiritual warfare. And you know, when I get put in a corner and I just wanted to, because I'm real claustrophobic anyway. It's one of my weaknesses.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought we got to come out firing. And Phil was like, I'm with you. But Phil felt the same way. He's like, we're trapped.
Yeah.
Trapped.
Well, it's the only way I could get Dad to do it. Dad was the last holdout, and he said, I'm not getting on a boat where I can't get off with 3,000 Duck Dynasty fans. I said, Dad, you get to preach the gospel every day, and they can't get off the boat. He went,
Wow.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
And he
So,
did.
Well, it
he
was-
went for
it
It
was
was a lot
great.
about your dad.
Yeah, in that aspect. But it was so weird that you said that because I just now, if you ever see me on a boat, call 911. If I'm that I can't get off of. If I'm
Right,
fishing with my buddies, okay. But if I'm
Yeah.
trapped for a week, no, I'm out.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah, I
funny.
thought that was funny. Well, I wanted to say this before because I know we don't have much time.
Yeah,
left.
running low.
I think what I thought was the most clever part of this, and I'd like to hear how this happened, because you took the very thing that most people who are not believers, which is why is there suffering in the world, and it became a platform. I think your 5 points, if I can remember off the top of my head, was in that suffering, we're seen, we're heard, we're held, we're known, and we're loved.
Ooh,
in
you
all
nailed
caps.
it, Jay.
What?
I wrote it down.
Off the top of my head,
Amazing.
and I read
You
your.
really read the book.
Yeah,
I
Thanks
read the
for
book.
reading it. We feel blessed by that.
Well, I read it in my free time, which was between 11 and 1:30 a.m. I'm a fast reader, but I really thought that was so awesome because there's a reason half of marriages end in divorce because you think, oh, this is rainbows and everything's going to be
Butterflies,
great. And in reality, there is suffering, but God does his best work in that. I mean, think of the cross here. You know, we don't have a God who's oblivious to it. He entered the world of suffering.
Yep.
And so I really think that was clever. And I think that's why this book needs to be read. So I was just wondering how that little mantra of the book I mean, what were y'all driving down the road saying?
Yeah, because you really built it well. That's what he's saying.
Yeah,
it was a nice stair step into the end of the book.
That seems like the thesis to me, and I'm not very smart, but it just really was profound to me. I thought, no, this is a good idea.
Yeah,
I want to, because it really is the mysterious part of God's love for us. And I was so excited about it because I just preached Sunday.
Yeah.
And look, the name of my sermon, I didn't even know y'all were coming on 2 days later. The name of my sermon was When a Plan Comes Together, but then it was like ... The Bible is about God getting his family back in Jesus.
Yeah.
And so I mirrored, how much is about family as it relates to God's family, him getting his family back. And kind of Ephesians 5, where it talks about husbands and wives, but at the end, he's like, this is a mystery, but I'm talking about you and Christ, the church being married to Christ.
Yeah.
And it made me think that our offspring in that marriage are people that are born again. We're married to Jesus, and what is the result of the church and Jesus being married? More people that are born again in Jesus. It's a beautiful picture, and I think y'all captured that well. So what was the thought process? Because I started preaching a sermon.
I was going to say, we were about to get that sermon
So
for
good.
one more time. We came
I
close.
love it. I think what comes to mind when you're talking about all those different points is just the gratefulness. And we were talking about this in small group like 2 nights ago. Like how, I had somebody tell me before we got married, it was actually a movie that I was filming, and it was the mentor role in that movie wrote it into the script even, but he was just saying that marriage gets better. If you are in a Christian marriage and you're committed to it and you're committed to each other, it just gets better and better and sweeter and sweeter. And there's a lot of people that miss out on the great by bailing when it gets hard. And what I feel like we're seeing in our journey now, 14 years in, we just celebrated 14 years a few weeks ago, was we just have had these moments of going, we see a sweetness and a connection and a deepening love and a deepening trust that is happening because of the challenges.
Yeah.
It's not in spite of the challenges, it's actually because of them. And it's the crying together, in those broken moments when his mom dies, and it's the, him finding out that he's got to part ways with the band, and the pain of that, and sticking it out together in that, and the miscarriages and the disappointments and the over and over again, and the disheartened, being together in that and going to God together in that has created this just, I don't know, sense of gratefulness or richness in the relationship. And it's not that we're like, it's not that it's butterflies and, what did you say earlier, Jase? Like,
rainbows and sunshine.
Rainbows, sunshine and butterflies all the time. There's still hard stuff, and there's still conflict that we have to work through, and hard conversations and things like that. That, that's a part of it. But I don't know, there's a deep-seated trust that is there because we've seen each other, we've known each other, we've really pressed in, and the end result, which is that final number 5, is the love that goes deeper. Seen, known, heard, held, and loved each other. And so I just feel thankful to be in this time now and have seen the beauty of God's way. And I think when we think about people just kind of closing the book, we want them to say, God is good. Man, God is good. And man, he loves his kids. And we're a bit of a mess, all of us. But he loves his kids, and he's here, and he's with us, and he's here, and he's with me. And they relate it to their own lives. I think that's what we hope. What would you say?
Yeah. I mean, the end tagline of our subtitle is being found by true love, which is a, kind of alluding to the fact that we found true love and kind of the happily ever after love story. But probably the more profound truth in that statement is that we were found by the actual true love.
Yeah.
Found by the true love of God, which capital T, which I don't know, kind of set us on this journey of, okay, what are our core desires? What are the core desires that God created us with? And those desires are to be seen, to be heard, to be held, to be loved, to be known. And I think we can experience those things here on earth and get a glimpse of God in the way that only He can provide those things perfectly. And I think the analogy that you're talking about, Jase, between Christ and the church, I mean, we experience Jesus through marriage because of that profound relationship of coming together, becoming one, and meeting those core desires in the best way possible in our broken humanity, but trying to see, trying to hear, trying to know, love. But at the end of the day, those core desires can only be met perfectly by the Creator.
Yeah.
So I think we can get a glimpse of them, but it only deepens our understanding of the perfection of the way He can meet those needs.
Amen.
Which is
that's
beautiful.
good. That's good.
Well, look, the book is amazing, Lasting Ever, which even the title, which you had just talked about, Happily Ever After, it's kind of, you spin it on the other side, and I love the concept of lasting ever. I had 12 more questions I didn't get to, so which means we've got to have you. We got to have you back sometime later because Cubbie teases early in there about some really traumatic stuff that you were both so vulnerable to talk about. Cubbie, you were as well, Rebecca. So I want to have that conversation.
Before you tell them how to get the book, I do have one idea that's silly. I just had a question when I read the book. Rebecca, have you ever introduced your husband by saying, "Here's my hubby, Cubbie"?
I have joked about that in the show, I think.
Okay.
Sometimes in an interview, from an audience member, they've kind of joked about it, but I feel like I have said that too, right?
Did you sense an eye roll?
Yes, definitely.
So this is the way Jase thinks. This is the kind of thing he thinks about.
To know that.
When we're in deep Bible discussion, these are the kind of things he brings out.
What is the question going to be?
I mean, a riveting question that I'm sure America is waiting to hear.
Sorry, I apologize. I'll tell them how they get the book. Or you tell us.
Yeah.
Before you do that, let me just say one thing is that I'm sure you've seen it with your own parents, but it does just get better and better and better every year. We celebrated 40 this year.
That's amazing.
Well, in November, so we're almost to 41. But here's the thing is that, like you said a while ago, no matter what the trials are and no matter what you go through, you're still living heaven on earth whenever you have the two of you together with that true love, but then it's overseen by that true love of Jesus Christ.
Yes.
And so it's just going to get better.
That.
Oh, that's good.
Wow.
I said that exact line this morning to my wife, did I not? I said, marriage is two people, God building something where you're living heaven on earth.
Which we didn't even get into.
That is crazy.
Even through struggles, it's just...
Thank you, Lisa. It
beautiful.
feels like a blessing.
No.
And the building of the legacy, which you guys get into as well. So we want to have you back sometime. You guys are so much fun.
That.
Yeah, we love y'all.
We feel like we are the American small bones, and you guys are the Australian Robertsons. So I feel like there's a kindred spirit.
I do feel that.
It's there. It's there. Cubbie, you fit right into this narrative.
Oh, yeah. Welcome aboard,
Welcome
Cubbie.
aboard,
I
Cubbie.
appreciate it. Thank you.
So check out the book, Lasting Ever, wherever you get your books. Get this book. It's going to be a blessing to you. It's a lot of really rich, good stuff that you're going to love. So thank y'all for coming on Unashamed. Thanks for listening to the Unashamed podcast. Help us out by leaving a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And don't miss an episode by subscribing on YouTube. And be sure to click the little bell and choose all notifications to watch every episode.